Hey, what's going on, guys? Dano from ModBot here, and Happy New Year. This is the first video of 2019, which is super exciting, kind of breaking the ice. And I'm really excited to bring you guys a review of this printer right here. This is the Biqu Thunder, which I've been reviewing and just testing really heavily over the last couple of weeks here. Since getting it in. I did review another machine from Biqu last year. It was a mini Delta called the Magician, which was a pretty solid printer. So I was really excited to get my hands on this guy. And a couple of things that caught my eye was the price tag. It was roughly around $500, give or take, depending on where you purchase it from. And it had a lot to offer on paper. So if you look at it, it looks like a CR10 or a CR10S. It's got the dual lead screw, so it would be equivalent to the upgraded version. But it's got a lot more going on for it. So for one, all of the electronics are housed underneath, so there's no big thing on the side of the machine, which I really liked. It's got Capricorn tubing, it's got a filament runout sensor, it's got auto bed leveling using this connector that pops on and pops off. So when you need to level it, you pop it on, it plugs in right where the fan is. There's two pins. Pop this on, run it, and then you can take it off until you need to use it again. It came with a magnetic build surface, so there's magnets in the actual bed, and you can use the magnetic build surface that it comes with. I had something happen to mine, which I'll talk to you guys about a little later on in the review. But aside from that, a lot of things I like about it are there's the cable chain, which keeps the wires out of the way, and it also just looks really nice. It's got an all metal hot end, so you can print, they say up to like 270 Celsius. You could probably push it a little bit beyond that, but I did not go higher than I think 260 in the time that I had it. I do plan on trying to print some nylon on it down the line, so I will take it towards its limits, certainly. As far as printing goes on it, you've got a few options. You've got a USB port on the side, you've got a full-size SD card slot on the other side, and you have got the ability to use MyMiniFactories Click Print, which they actually teamed up with Biqu, and this is the first machine that has it natively embedded in there. So I'm going to talk about this in a completely separate video because it's a whole thing in itself, but how it works essentially is this machine has Wi-Fi built in, and you hook it up to Wi-Fi, and then you download MyMiniFactory on your phone. And so you connect your phone to this printer. There's a QR code that you scan from within the app, and then you have access to all of MyMiniFactory's STLs, all the user uploaded STLs. Well, I believe the number I saw was somewhere along the lines of 50,000 of the files on there are already set up for click and print. So basically the way it works is you find a file that you want to print, you click on it. If it's capable to do click and print, you hit print. It wirelessly sends it over to your machine, and it begins printing. And don't have to touch any slicers. You don't have to do any setting tweaking. Currently, it's only available for PLA. Again, I'll get into all this in a completely different video because it's a lot in itself, but that is one option, and this is the first machine to have it in its core or embedded within the machine. So again, I was super excited after seeing this machine to get it in and get a review of it. So I received the machine probably about 3 weeks to a month ago now, and it came in this massive box. It was really well packaged. Everything was like really thick foam surrounding it. So luckily there was nothing damaged. There was no scratches on sometimes the extrusions. If they're not packaged well, they'll get scratches. There was no scratches on the anodized aluminum extrusions, which is really nice. There was a couple of the bed screws actually loose in the box, but was really no big deal. Everything was at least accounted for, so I just screwed them back on. This printer doesn't come fully assembled. It's what I like to call a semi-kit or a mostly assembled 3D printer. I would say that if you are actually focused, you should be able to have this thing up and running within about an hour. That's roughly what it took me, and I was tired on the floor and partially watching a TV show that Aaron had on while I was building it. The instructions were really awesome. So one thing I like that they did is that they actually give you a physical printout. So I don't know what I did with the instructions. I think they're down here, but you actually get a printed out user manual with all the details. Yes, their ink was obviously running low, but still everything in here was easy to see, and I was able to follow it. It even takes you through the software side of things and all that good stuff. So this is really nice. They also give you an SD card that has this in like a PDF format, but for me it's really nice having this because I like, again, with this big machine, it's I can't really build it on this desk surface. I had to move my keyboard to the side to even get it up here for the video. So I'm over there on the floor building it, and it's nice having a paper manual and not having to reference my phone or bring out the laptop. So it's kind of the little things, but that was really cool. All the bags were extremely well labeled, which was great. They only had one screw size per bag, so you knew that all the stuff in that bag was the exact same screw size, and it pertained to a certain step in the instructions. So getting this up and running was so nice, and so much nicer than the last experience that I had with a kit printer. So I was very thankful for kind of a refresh. So once I had it up and running, I went ahead and took it over and slapped it up actually on this table over here. I hooked up this auto bed leveling, plugged it in, flipped it on, hit auto bed level, it went around, did all of its bed leveling, and I was ready to print. I popped in the SD card in the slot on the side over here, and there wasn't a lot of test files on here. There was basically a tiny little cube. So I ran that, it started printing, and it was actually printing a little too close to the bed, so I had to adjust the Z, like baby step it essentially, and you can do that live from the LCD screen, which is touchscreen by the way, so that was really nice. And yeah, then it was off and printing. It printed beautifully. All the stuff I'm talking about, I'll have videos overlaying it. It's just easier than trying to show it from far away, but all the prints I've done on this guy. So yeah, so I went ahead and printed the cube, was really happy with it. So then I wanted to try out the click and print functionality, and I started printing a Fox, and it started off beautifully. I walked away, came back a couple hours later, and saw that the print wasn't printing anymore, and there was a note on the screen that basically said something along the lines of like weird extrusion or abnormal extrusion. So I took the filament out, messed around with it a little bit, said okay, put it back in, click continue. A couple hours passed by, same thing happened. So in my first thing thinking was maybe it's an issue with this filament. It was a white filament, which shouldn't be an issue. But I figured let's try another filament before thinking it's something with the hardware per se. So tried a different filament, same exact thing happened. So I reached out to the company, let them know. They said they were going to get me in contact with their engineers. They gave me a Facebook message to go in contact with them. But I just haven't had the time to do that. So basically what I did is I went under the settings on the LCD screen, and you can just click filament runout sensor, and I turned it off. And after I turned it off, I got just absolutely beautiful prints, like back to back to back. I did an 8-hour print of the Joker. I did another 8-hour print of the Joker. I redid that Fox print, which turned out beautifully. I did one of those small moon cities, which also turned out great. Then I tried to print the full volume of the printer by doing a vase in vase mode, and for the first like 70% of it, it was looking beautiful. Then the last 30%, it started to have little gaps, and I'm not attributing that to the machine. I was printing it in vase mode, so it's only one parameter around the outside, and so I don't do a whole lot of vases that way, so I'm thinking that potentially it was either a speed or something with my settings I didn't quite have tuned correctly. But I ended up killing it like 15% before completion because it was just getting worse and worse the higher it seemed to get. So I took that off, and all of those prints were done in PLA, so I decided I want to try some other materials. I print fairly often in PETG, so I figured let's go ahead and give some PETG a go. So I printed out this green vase. This turned out absolutely beautiful, but there's one thing I had noticed, and the bed on this guy, the bed that it comes with, which you can see is pretty jacked up, looks like this. And it almost reminds me of like a mouse pad, like a much stiffer mouse pad with, some kind of magnetic surface on the bottom and some kind of, essentially build-tack on the top. Well, after the first few prints, I noticed that when I took it down to eye level, or went down on like eye level with it, I started to notice like a slight bit of bubbling on the actual build surface. And instantly in my head, I was thinking that whatever has this surface on the bed, the adhesion is starting to give up or give out, which is what happened. And so when I was printing the PETG, that on that final heat cycle, it actually swelled and bonded with the bottom of my vase. And so when I went to remove it, the whole part, it completely cracked the whole part off. There's a huge hole there. So I also reached out to Biqu and let them know that this happened. My simple fix was I threw a pane of glass on here that I had left over from another machine, put some binder clips on it, re-leveled it, and it's been printing beautifully since. Another solution would be to get like a 12 by 12 spring steel from BuildTack directly, and you could throw that on here because it's still got the magnets in the bed and it would work fine. So that was really unfortunate, but honestly, at the same time, it wasn't really a deal breaker for me. I was really pleased with the quality I was getting from the prints and everything else this machine had to offer. That in my mind, I was thinking, you know, yeah, it is $500, but for what you're getting for $500, to me, it's still an amazing value. Like, this has been a really pleasant experience. With the two, again, fallbacks being the filament runout sensor seems very glitched or buggy on my end, and again, the bed as well, having this issue now. But I've never been big on using filament runout sensors regardless, so for me that was like, I didn't really care about the feature to begin with, and ideally glass was probably what I was going to end up putting on this in the long run to be able to print nylon and things like that anyway. Do I think that that excuses what happened? No, that shouldn't happen, of course. Like, the product should hold up longer. I probably at that point had put about 85 to 90 hours of print time on the bed, which is far too soon in my opinion to have something like that happen. But again, it did. So anyways, once I did swap that out with glass, the last thing I wanted to try was some TPU. So I used some SainSmart TPU that I've had open and unsealed for a little over 2 years. I bought it in November of 2016. So it's been over 2 years. I've never dried it out. I was expecting pretty bad results, and especially with the Bowden setup and just the way this functions with this extruder, I was thinking there's no way it's going to actually work. Well, it did take a little bit to get it started. I had to actually put some tension myself on the TPU to make it not wrap around the extruder. But once I got it going, it printed out better than I expected, and the little octopus I printed out turned out really, really solid. So overall, it has been a really, really pleasant experience with this printer. Do I think this printer is perfect? Absolutely not. Again, the filament runout sensor, to some, that in itself could be a big deal breaker. I don't know whether it just needs some kind of a update or what exactly, or if it was just a freak thing with mine. But again, it did happen to me, and you guys need to know that. Also, the bed, for me, wasn't that big of a deal, but I can also see this being really frustrating to somebody else that just got this machine, and 3 weeks in, the bed is cracking on them. So both unfortunate things, but again, there's a lot of really good here. This machine is very, very rigid. It's, for being how big it is, I like that all the electronics are completely enclosed underneath it. I love the touchscreen. I love that it's got an all metal hot end. You can print all sorts of all sorts of high temperature materials. The auto bed leveling is really nice. There's a lot here it has to offer, and especially if you're somebody that wants to get into 3D printing with the click and print functionality where you don't have to mess around with the slicer, it definitely brings something unique to the table. And yeah, that's been my review on it. I'm sure that, again, I've done probably now about 100 hours after the flexible print on here. I am likely going to be putting another couple hundred hours on it over the next few months here. So I doubt this is the last time you guys are going to see a video on this printer. I'm certainly going to do another one showing you guys how the app works and the connectivity and stuff like that, because that is something very unique about this particular machine. But again, this has been the Biqu Thunder. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. Hope everyone had a great New Year's, and I am so looking forward to making some kick-ass videos for you guys in the coming weeks and months here. So on that note, I will end the video, and I am out. Peace, guys.